What's up, everybody? Today we've got an NFL mock draft for the 2026 draft class. I got the top 30, so no Super Bowl teams. However, the top 30 will be included. Going through all of your teams, so drop a comment if I got your team right, and if I didn't, who you want your team to end up drafting in this year's draft. And without further ado, let's get right into it. But if you guys could hit the subscribe button right before you start here, I would really appreciate it. But let's start at the top with number 1. We've got Fernando Mendoza going to the Las Vegas Raiders. Makes a lot of sense. I think they're going to hire an offensive-minded coach to be the head coach, and he is just kind of a franchise changer. It's probably the most important position in all of sports. You have to get your QB right in order to function as a franchise, and I think they've got it with Fernando Mendoza. Showed a lot of courage with the rushing plays in the national championship, and with Tom Brady at the helm of ownership, I think he has all the same character traits that Tom is looking for. He's humble, and he's very, very gritty in the most needing moments of the game. So I like Mendoza going to Vegas. I think the offensive line is going to have to be the main priority of all the rest of their picks in free agency, but he definitely can help fill a lot of holes right away from day one. At the second pick, we've got the New York Jets, and I think they're going to take Ruben Bain from Miami. He's the edge rusher. He just won the best defensive end in college football. It's a prestigious award, and it went to him because he was strictly just dominant all season long. He totaled 9.5 sacks and really leveled up his game in the college football playoff. I think teams always like to understand when guys are playing their best when the games matter the most, and that's certainly what Bain did, especially in the national championship. He was dominant, but Ruben Bain would fit well with this Jets defense just strictly because they traded a lot of talent at the deadline, getting rid of Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner. Why not get a big defensive playmaker to really help set the edge while Dante Moore is back in college and there's no real second quarterback left on the board for the Jets? Number 3, to the Arizona Cardinals, we got Francis Mauigoa. For the Cardinals, I like them to build on the offensive line. It makes a little bit too much sense for them. They're probably in a QB transition year. Wouldn't be shocked if they go after like the Malik Willis, Mac Jones clan of quarterbacks where they're just giving him one more shot. Because obviously Kyler wasn't the answer, but you could also roll with Jacoby Brissett. They have enough talent on the offensive side of the ball where you can kind of make it work. I think they're going to play best available here, and whether it's Arvil Reese or Francis Mauigoa, I think you pick your poison, but why not build up the offensive line for the quarterback that you know you're probably going to be drafting in the next few years? So get Mauigoa, lock him into the offensive tackle position, and be able to build and maybe give this transition quarterback a chance to maybe in year one you're contending a little bit. Because you do have great skill position players around him with McBride, Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison, and a defense that, yes, is shaky, but it has a lot of young talent with Budda Baker, Walter Nolan, a whole bunch of guys, Josh Sweat, a veteran. So you could definitely make the argument for a little bit of a bounce back for Arizona in 2026, but it's going to start in the trenches, and they're definitely would be in great success getting Mauigoa. At number 4, we've got Jordan Tyson, the first wide receiver off the board to the Tennessee Titans. He hasn't been the greatest pinnacle of health as of late, missing games in the past 2 seasons. However, I think you're going to take the high upside potential, matching with Cam Ward and Brian Dable, who they brought in to be the offensive coordinator. They want to see what Cam Ward's got, and there's really no other way to do so without surrounding himself with weapons. So I like them getting Jordan Tyson, maybe another tight end in free agency, or just utilizing more Chigakonkwo in this offense. Their offensive line is actually a little bit underrated. I think they're probably in the top half of the NFL, which for a bottom 4 team is usually unlikely. So I think they've got good work in the trenches, but they really need to figure out these weapons to see the potential that Cam Ward can be. I'm still very bullish on his outlook going forward. I think if you're in any dynasty fantasy football, I would be buying Cam Ward. I think he made a handful of throws this year where only he can make them. So I like Cam Ward going forward. So you might as well pick him up if you can. And I think Jordan Tyson would be a great addition to this offense. He's fast and he's physical. He has all the traits that make him an elite wide receiver, similar to like a Garrett Wilson or CeeDee Lamb. He can run any route you need him to do. He just needs to stay on the field, but no doubt huge playmaker at pick number 4. At pick number 5, following that up, is probably one of, if not the most talented, as far as like a big board prospect for the 2026 draft, and that's Caleb Downs from Ohio State. Going to the New York Giants, you might as well keep him in the national media because he's a star, and the Giants have a lot of talent on the defensive end, but they need to be able to like figure it out. They need to all piece together. They have Abdul Carter, they have Brian Burns, they have Dexter Lawrence. Like, these are all guys that should be good enough, but they don't have enough help on the back end. So drafting Caleb Downs solves a lot of problems on that front. He's also great in special teams. You get a punt returner, kick returner, also added for your 5th overall pick, which I think is a little bit slept on, but I think he's great value here. And on the offensive side of the ball, I don't think there's any need to draft another weapon. I've seen other mocks taking Carnell Tate or other wide receivers. I think they've got plenty of wide receiver help at home. With Neighbors coming off injury, you got Slayton, you got Wandale, who I'd assume they'll sign back. And then you also got Jackson Dart, who looks to be promising, and two good running backs. So I like them going on defense and taking the best available here with Caleb Downs. At pick number 6, following that, is going to be Carnell Tate, like I just mentioned. However, I see him going to Cleveland here with Shedeur Sanders at the helm. I'm not sure if they'll bring in another veteran quarterback, but one thing is for clear, they don't have any weapons for this quarterback, whoever it is for the Browns. You just brought in Todd Monken, who wants to control the pace of play, and the only way you can do that is playing play action and leaning on the ground. However, you need some weapons outside to really force the defense to not stack the box. So I like them leaning on Judkins and getting Carnell Tate, staying in the same state that he played college football in at Ohio State. He's a big threat. He's almost like a T. Higgins type prospect where he can beat you over the top, but he's one of the best contested catch wide receivers in college football. He's been in Jeremiah Smith's shadow a little bit for the past 2 years, but there's no doubt he's a high quality talent, and he's definitely worthy of a top 10 pick, and I think the Browns got a huge value here. Following that up is going to be Arvell Reese. A lot of people don't see him slipping past pick number 3, but I think if he gets past Arizona, he could fall a little bit. And that's just due to the other teams having great defenses and overall good edge rushers and better needs on the offensive side of the ball. So I like Arvell Reese here going to the Commanders. They need defensive help everywhere. So it's pick your poison for them, whether Caleb Downs drops to them or a defensive lineman like Caleb Banks or Peter Woods from Clemson, one of the big nose tackles up front. But if an edge rusher falls their way, I also like this for them. I think he's one of the best prospects in this draft, and getting him at pick 7 is a steal. Washington needs a lot of help, and Dan Quinn, being the defensive-minded head coach that he is, I think he'd like to restore that identity for the Washington defense to really get some help so he could design all those crazy packages that he's had to keep in his pocket for the past few years, just due to the talent that they have. The real only bright spot is Mikey Sanders still, but outside of that, they need help, and I think Arvell Reese could be a big tone setter from day one. And then following them at pick number 8 is going to be Jeremiah Love. Yes, the first running back. I know it didn't work last year with Ashton Jeanty. However, I think it makes sense here. If 2 wide receivers are already gone, I don't think they're going to reach for Mekhi Lemon. I think there's enough free agent wide receivers that the Saints could poach one of them, whether it's a Wandale, an Alec Pierce, Juwan Jennings. They have the money to do so. So I think they'll go wide receiver in free agency, and then if this draft falls the same way, I think they pull the trigger on Jeremiah Love. You have Alvin Kamara, who's getting very old and isn't as efficient as he once was, and you could bring in Jeremiah Love, and you could use Kamara in those third down packages and just have that thunder and lightning that made him so successful with Mark Ingram and Kamara. But Jeremiah Love he's a do-it-all back. Don't let my words disguise you from the committee that I was projecting, but he is an absolute beast. I like him as a better prospect than Ashton Jeanty. He's bigger, he's stronger, and he played against better competition. I know people like to joke about Notre Dame's schedule. However, he was also splitting time with Jadarian Price, who's probably going to be a second-round pick, maybe even the second running back taken in this draft. So we're just scratching the surface of what he can be with a full bell cow usage. But I like the Saints going here at running back. You have Tyler Shuck as your quarterback. You might as well surround him with as much as he's got on his rookie contract and make a run at this thing in a depleted division. Number 9 goes to David Bailey, another edge rusher off the board. Not a shocker, has been a theme of the recent drafts. Edge rushers and offensive linemen go early and often, and the Chiefs really need this help. They need help to ease off the pressure from Chris Jones and George Karlaftis and help out defensive coordinator here. Spags likes to dial up the blitzes, and you can't dial up the blitzes without talent. And you get a top 10 pick here strictly based off luck, essentially, by tanking the past few games of the season. So you might as well take it to get a star edge rusher. David Bailey's great. He's great against the pass, getting home to the quarterback, but he can also stop the run. He's big and he's physical. I like the Chiefs to take him. He's everything Spags is looking for. And he could help this Chiefs defense be a little bit more dynamic than just doubling Chris Jones, and then outside of that, they really have nothing to get pressure with unless you design up a blitz, which is what they ended up getting killed with towards the end of the year, was those blitzes that Spags is usually great at disguising, but if you're not getting pressure with 4 or 5 initially, teams are going to be expecting the blitz all the time. So they were ready for it, but I think in 2026 they won't be ready for it if they get a big-time talent like David Bailey. And then capping off the top 10 is going to be Peter Woods. I mentioned him earlier, but he fits well with the Cincinnati Bengals depleted defense. I like him interior. He's one of the best run stuffers in this draft, and that's exactly what the Cincinnati Bengals need. They need help everywhere on defense, but why not start on the interior? Big D lineman. He can stop the run. He can also kind of shrug off blocks and get to the passer occasionally. He has big game experience, so I like Peter Woods going to Cincinnati here. It's a little bit earlier than I've seen other people mocking him, but with so many edge rushers off the board already, I think Cincinnati just takes the best defensive player available, and in this case, it's going to be Peter Woods. And then at pick number 11, we've got the Miami Dolphins. I think they're actually a few pieces away from being a playoff team. I think they'll continue to lean on the ground, and what better way to help that than an offensive lineman? I think they take Spencer Fano here from Utah. He's easily the second best offensive lineman. You can make the argument for the first. It's really him and Maui Noah, and then a big tier gap for me. So I like Fano going to Miami with no Mike McDaniels now departing as head coach, now the Chargers offensive coordinator. I think you want to build inside out, and what I mean by that is drafting the O-line and D-line, because if you're in this transition with a QB like Quinn Ewers or another guy like Malik Willis that you're not really tied to long term, you might as well protect him and see what he's got. And I think you could really lean on this rush first identity with Devon Achane, get some more protection up front. Fano can pull on the outside, get back to that outside zone scheme, and really help them out. And that way you can just lean on the run game, play a little bit play action, not too much stress on the quarterback. And then if your defense is able to step up, I mean, the Dolphins were hot towards the end of the season. So if they're able to start decent, I think they could be in the playoff mix next year. I think Fano could help them a lot. And then one of the most asked about questions is who are the Cowboys going to take? They say it every year. I can almost assure you they're going defense. I think Sonny Styles falling to them here at pick number 12 would be extremely lucky for them. But in this case, I think they smashed pick him here because you already have a lot of help up front. I was going to say you take an edge rusher or a D lineman to stop the run, but after trading for Quinnen Williams, this defense actually looked a little bit better against the rush. And that's just strictly because Big Q is a monster. He sheds blocks like no one else. So why not get someone on the second level here with Sonny Styles? He is very, very good. Intelligent player, played in all the big games at Ohio State, can also get to the passer, but decent in coverage against running backs and tight ends. So I think they get him to be a new, young leader of this defense as they transition towards new players, especially a new secondary. You spent a lot of money on Bland and Trayvon Diggs, and you already cut Diggs, so whatever free agents or draft picks they use on the back end in the secondary, I think Sonny Styles could be a great leader for this team and really help them rekindle any hopes of the NFC East because, let's be honest, they have a top 3 offense in this NFL with Pickens and Lamb. So I think if you make decent enough strides here, you could be in the playoff push. So I like Dallas going Styles. And then after them comes the Rams. And I know you're probably thinking, how did the Rams get the 13th pick? You can thank the Falcons for that. They traded up last year to get James Pierce, and they gave up a whole lot. They gave up this year's first rounder. I'm not sure if they thought they were going to be like a Super Bowl contender, but I'm sorry, Falcons fans, but that's just the truth. So the Rams have a top 14, and at pick number 13 for them, I like Mansour Delane. I think he's one of the best corners in this draft. So it's him, Avion Terrell, brother of A.J. Terrell, from Clemson, but I think they take the corner from LSU here. He's great in coverage. You can pretty much just stick him on whoever you want, and the Rams, that was kind of their one downfall in the pass game. You saw it against JSN. You really didn't have much coverage options for them. They didn't have a star corner to really put on them. Their D-line is very good with Fisk and Verse. However, outside, they don't have much depth at corner, so you were seeing Emmanuel Forbes get exposed in a lot of those early season games, essentially getting played off the field. So to add some more depth to this rotation is a blessing because you're usually not able to get a talent of this caliber when you're already so good as a team. But that was a good trade at last year's draft for them, and I think they just take the best available here and help out their defense. And then going on to the Ravens, another team with a new coach, no more John Harbaugh in town. Jesse Minter as the new head coach. I think he wants more talent on the defensive side of the ball. Get Keldrick Falk here, the edge rusher from Auburn. Edge rushers are flying off the board, and you might as well get one while you can. The Baltimore Ravens struggled with getting pressure all 2025, so I think Falk could help that. They did have a lot of guys that were missing time due to injury, so they'll get them back. But on the back end, you still have Marlon Humphrey and Kyle Hamilton. And on the offensive side of the ball, yes, they could probably pick up a day 2 or 3 wide receiver to help out Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. However, I think they got enough talent up there, especially if they re-sign Tyler Linderbaum. That offensive line is very capable of being a playoff-worthy team anytime you have Lamar behind the helm as the quarterback. So why not bring in Keldrick Falk? It makes a lot of sense with the defensive identity Jesse Minter is trying to establish in Baltimore. And I think this is a good pick for them. At pick number 15, another edge rusher here with Cassius Howell from Texas A&M. The Bucs need help on the defensive side of the ball. Unlike the Ravens, They didn't really have too many guys injured on defense. They just didn't have enough talent. They're getting old with Levante David at linebacker and other guys just kind of aging. Vita Vea saw a little bit of a step back in his game, but it's not enough to really take a big D lineman. The one way to solve these defensive issues is to get pressure on the quarterback. You can make up a lot of issues on the back end if you're able to get pressure. So I think edge rushers are a premium, and you got to take them now. There's no point of taking another wide receiver. I was still shocked that they did that last draft, taking Egbuka. I know through the first 5 or 6 weeks you were saying, you had to take him because he's generational talent. But as of now, I think they should have won defense. I think they probably think that too, because they have enough help on the offensive side of the ball, especially on the O-line too. They have 2 good tackles, so don't be surprised if they shift their identity a little bit with a new OC coming in, the Falcons OC, who loves to run with 2 backs. So I'd expect Bucky and Sean Tucker to be the main identity of this team with occasional play actions rather than just air raid all the time. Keep their offense on the field a little bit more and let their defense rest while they don't have the most talent available. So get Cassius Howell at pick 15, and then the Jets have another first-round pick at 16. So what better way to pair their second overall pick, Ruben Bain, on the defensive side of the ball and get some talent on the offense? So we get Makai Lemon. Some people have him as their wide receiver 1. I'm a little bit less bullish. He's my wide receiver 3 now, but I think he's firmly, I think you can switch him and Tyson 1 and 3. There's good arguments either way because of the health of Jordan Tyson. I think he has the highest potential. However, Makai Lemon is probably the safest prospect. He figures as more of a slot machine here with operating in the slot, under 6 foot tall wide receiver, shifty, quick out of his break. I think the New York Jets get a value here at pick 16. Wouldn't be shocked if teams try and trade up to take Lemon. Great honoree for the Bolindikov, as consistent as they come at USC. So I like him going to New York, who could pair with Garrett Wilson very, very well. You have Garrett Wilson who could operate on the outside, Lemon in the slot, and then whatever quarterback you bring in has enough weapons, especially if they keep Breece Hall around. And you can see what you've got. I'm not saying the Jets are going to be any good next year, but you're building a young core, and I think that trade with the Colts was a great one. You probably have more picks coming down the pipeline that are higher than expected when they made that deal with the Colts. So you can build up the future here with Garrett Wilson, Lemon on the offensive side of the ball, and Bain on defense. I think that's a great start to the draft for New York. Pick 17, we got Caden Proctor, the offensive lineman from Alabama. I've seen him mocked as late as the last few picks of the first round, but this is a guy that just screams Dan Campbell. He loves using Penei Sewell as much as he can, and if there's a guy that's even more athletic as an offensive lineman, it's Caden Proctor. Alabama actually used him similar to the way that they used Penei Sewell. He was getting carries in the goal line. He's also pulling out on wide receiver screens and blocks. He's catching the ball as screens. He's 6'7". He's an absolute giant. And he could pair perfect with Penei Sewell to really get this identity as the rush first team in Detroit back to where it belongs. I know there's holes on the defensive side of the ball, but I think they could address a lot of that in free agency and the remaining picks. But Dan Campbell loves to run the ball, and what better way to get more athletic offensive tackles while they're available? Caden Proctor is one of the freakish athletes that you only see once in a few drafts. So I think they take him here despite him being ranked a little bit lower. That's kind of the MO of the Detroit front office. They don't really care where guys are ranked. They took Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell, and everyone laughed at them, and they were 2 of the best picks. So I don't think they're too scared to do that again here with Proctor. Pick 18 belongs to the Minnesota Vikings here. Brian Flores coming back as defensive coordinator. Get him some more help on the defensive side of the ball. Not like he needs it. He's great, but the one spot that they could use a little bit more depth is D-line. So I like Caleb Banks, just a big tackle up front to help ease on the run game. Because I don't love the talent available on the offensive side of the board at this point. If you're thinking another quarterback, I think it's way too early for Ty Simpson or Trinidad Chambliss. So I think you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, maybe sign someone, get Mac Jones as competition for your quarterback. Their tackles on offense are actually pretty good. They just need to stay healthy. So you can make the argument for another O-lineman just as depth. But I think they do the same process just on the D-line. Get B-Flow some more weapons on the defensive side of the ball to keep dialing it up and keep this Vikings defense at the top. And then at pick number 19, we got the Panthers. We are on to the playoff teams here. I know that you see the Cowboys next. That was just a trade with the Packers. But with the Panthers, obviously losing the wild card, you could see it in their offense a little bit here. They were so dependent on Tetero, McMillan, and Jalen Coker. Why not just get another athlete to really help Bryce Young's development here? The O-line is very good. They have 2 good running backs. And their defense, yes, it still has problems. They had like the lowest amount of sacks, but with edge rushers flying off the board, you could tailor those needs towards free agency or later picks. But for now, I think they go with the tight end from Oregon here, Kenyon Sadiq. He's a freakish athlete. Coming out of Oregon, definitely the best tight end in the country this year. Him, Max Clare, but there's a clear drop off. I don't, like I said with O lineman, there's like the top 2 tier, and then there's a big break. It's really Sadiq, and then a huge tier break for me at tight end. So I think they get this prospect here. Sadiq could really help him. Also in the run game, he's very athletic. He can pull outside. And then he's also just another weapon for Bryce Young. You want to see what you got. You just give him the 5th-year option. If you're going to commit a lot of money to him, you got to be able to understand that he's going to play well with the weapons that he has. I don't see them going into 2026 with just Tetairoa McMillan and no one else. So I think they'll lean a little bit more on Bryce's shoulders rather than the run game this year and really test him out, especially with their new weapon in Kenyon Sadiq. And then closing out the top 20 here is going to be the Cowboys again. Like I said, the Packers pick. However, let's go back to the defensive side of the ball. I mentioned it with Sonny Styles that they still need help on the back end. Let's get Jermon McCoy, a quarterback from Tennessee. He can lock up the best number 1. Will that happen in year 1? Probably not, just as a rookie. But he's big and he's physical, and I like him in this Dallas secondary that needs bodies. They need depth, and I think he would be a starter from day 1, obviously. But he could really help you, especially in this division that has so many good wide receiver ones in A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, and Malik Neighbors. You need help in corners and safeties, and I think the Cowboys get a steal here at pick number 20. Cornerback from Tennessee, and really help kind of beef up this defensive side of the ball for Dallas. And then at pick number 21, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like them going to the offensive side of the ball and getting a wide receiver here, Denzel Boston. Big, lengthy wide receiver here from Washington. I think he fits well with the Steelers just strictly because they need more weapons. You have DK Metcalf, who looked to be a little bit more regressed in 2025. I mean, Kenneth Gainwell led this team in catches, which is crazy. He's a free agent, so I know they're going to try and lean on the run game. However, you need more weapons for whatever quarterback it is in 2026. Mike McCarthy always likes to have multiple good wide receivers on the same field at once, so I think Boston can help alleviate more stress on the offense. You're already paying the defense so much money where it wouldn't make too much logistical sense to get any help. You have a lot of veterans on the defensive side of the ball, so you're kind of in a win-now mode. So get a wide receiver who can be productive in day 1 here with Denzel Boston. And then at 22, we got the Chargers. Shocker, they're going offensive line with Caleb Lomu here from Utah, the second O-lineman from Utah. He's just a tier below for me than the top 2 offensive linemen. However, he is great, a depth piece here for the Chargers, who got both of their tackles knocked out early, and they could really use the depth on that side of the ball. Then we got the Eagles. A little bit of a swing here in offensive lineman from Georgia. Shocker, this is also part of the Eagles and Howie Roseman's kind of MO, taking Georgia players. It's usually on the defensive side, but I think they go O-lineman here. He's the best one available. With Lane Johnson missing time in 2025, I think they piece it together. Try and get back to that lean on the run game with Saquon and Jalen Hurts, and maybe move ways with A.J. Brown. I'm not sure, but they want to reestablish this identity that made them Super Bowl winning caliber, and that's really just focusing on the run game. And I think another added offensive lineman that if injuries happen, he could step in and be productive is a great step in the right direction. 24, with the Cleveland Browns, their second first-round pick of this 2026 draft. We got Casey Concepcion, wide receiver from Texas A&M, great in the slot. A little bit smaller wide receiver prospect. However, I know I said the Browns taking Carnell Tate early in the draft. Why not get another weapon here? So you're surrounding Shador and whoever the quarterback is with more and more weapons. You're going to see what they really are about. So if you go into the season with Carnell Tate, Casey Concepcion, and Harold Fannin, while you still have a decent O-line, a beastly defense, and Quinshon Judkins running the ball, I think if you get the quarterback position just a little bit right, you could be in the hunt for the playoffs. I know that sounds crazy at first, but it's really what they were missing to have dynamic wide receivers on the perimeter. And if you get 2 really good 2026 draft class wide receivers in the first round, I think if you just get a little bit production from Shador or whoever it is, you could be really, really sneaky in the AFC North. And then we've got the Chicago Bears at 25. They really struggled on the defensive side of the ball, especially against the run down the stretch. However, there's really no really high-quality D lineman still available, and it would be a little bit of a reach. So I think they go edge rusher, a guy that you could use pretty much anywhere on the defensive side. TJ Parker, very versatile athlete from Clemson. Once again, played in all the big games. I like him. I think he's very capable of stopping the run as well. Just a freak athlete, so I think the Bears get what they want here. They were missing a lot of guys on defense due to injury. I know Jalen Johnson said that he wasn't 100% healthy all 2025 coming back from that injury. So I think they have enough depth on the back end end with him and Kevin Byard. Why not beef up the defensive line and get an edge rusher here from Clemson, TJ Parker to the Bears at 25. And then following up the Bears, we've got the Bills with Caden McDonald, defensive tackle. As edge rushers continue to flood off the board, the Bills have been bad against the run, and I think McDonald would be a big run stuffer up front. With new head coach Joe Brady, I think he likes what he has on the offensive side, maybe a free agent wide receiver, but this late in the first round with already 4 or 5 wide receivers gone, I think it's a reach to take a guy like Zachariah Branch, who would be next up in my board, or anyone else of that caliber from wide receiver. So I think they go defense here. Everything stops and starts is the O-line and D-line and stopping the run and running the ball. And they're able to control tempo with James Cook. Their O-line is very, very good, but stopping the run was a big issue. They let Bijan go crazy on them. Also, the Denver Broncos, I know that wasn't the main reason they lost the game, but they were running the ball very effectively. So were the Jaguars. Teams just kind of strayed away from it for some reason, but they could have gotten themselves in even more problems up front with the D-line. You have Joey Bosa, but really no one else, and Ed Oliver if he can stay healthy. But why not just pair him with Ed Oliver and get 2 big run stuffers to help this team get back to where they belong? Following up the Bills is the Niners. Their defense had been ravaged with injuries, so I think they get some help here with Avion Terrell, brother of A.J. Terrell, who's great in the NFL for the Falcons. This will alleviate some stress off of the new defensive coordinator here. Getting some healthy bodies back into the fold and a first-round rookie, I think they could be right back to contending. They're also a team that could use a wide receiver, but with a lot of these guys already off the board, I don't think they're going to push it. I think they'll just try and stick it out with Ricky Pearsall when healthy, and then maybe getting a guy like Deebo Samuel to come back in free agency for one more year and really see what he's got. But other than that, just lean on McCaffrey and then figure it out once George Kittle comes back and get all these defensive playmakers back. And Avion Terrell getting back to the Niners would be a great value at pick number 27 to help out the back end. Pick number 28, Emmanuel Pregnon, another offensive lineman, the first guard taken here. So predominantly plays guard. I'm not saying he couldn't switch to tackle, but you're drafting him as a guard. I think he'll stay as a guard, especially for Houston. That's a big area of need is the O-line. I think they're getting enough weapons back with second-year Jaden Higgins, Nico Collins, Jalen Noel, and Tank Dell potentially coming back. I think you've got enough, especially if they get a free agent running back, which I'd assume is going to be priority number 1 for them in the offseason. So getting a guy like Breece Hall or trading for Monty or getting Rico Dowdle, all great solutions for them. And then as far as the defensive side of the ball, you have it all figured out. So go to the O-line, get some protection around C.J. Stroud. Hopefully he can be the quarterback he once was as a rookie. And I think that starts up front, getting him more time, not getting him into pressure and all these sacks taken. So a big offensive guard here from Oregon, Emmanuel Pregnon, makes a lot of sense. Pick number 29 for the Los Angeles Rams. I like them going Ty Simpson here. It's the second pick of the first round for them after claiming the Falcons pick this year. So getting the Rams, their second first-round pick, why not just build for the future here? With Matthew Stafford probably only got 1 more year left in him. Get Ty Simpson, who I think could be a solid quarterback in this McVay system. You have all the weapons surrounded by him. You have the whole defense already up and young and healthy and ready to roll. So get a quarterback that you can develop for a full year, get the guidance of Matthew Stafford, and similar play style, loves to air it out. So I'm not saying he's anywhere close as a prospect to him, but you're at least going to see what you got in Ty Simpson here. It makes a lot of sense, and that way you can hit the ground running in 2027 after Stafford probably moves on, and then you can see what you got with Ty Simpson. At pick number 30, we've got C.J. Allen to the Denver Broncos. He's going to close off our top 30 here, linebacker from Georgia. If you're just nitpicking, I think this defense was top 5, no doubt, week in, week out. But that's what's going to happen when you're at the end of the draft. These teams are also good. So just nitpicking here, I think they could use some help at linebacker, just some depth. They have run stuffers up front, and they're great on the back end with Surtain and Riley Moss. So I think add some depth to Ellis and Ufunga. Really just get some more bodies there. He's super athletic, versatile. He can play almost anywhere on the defense. So I like C.J. Allen here, but he's going to close off our top 30 of the NFL draft. I will have another mock up in a few weeks as we get closer to the NFL draft, but please let me know in the comments if I got your team right. And before you go, I would love it if you subscribe. But other than that, that is going to do it. Peace.